The pilot's hands were shaking. Fuel was gone. Both engines had just died. And below him, nothing but ocean. He had one shot to put a 150-ton aircraft down on water without killing everyone on board. He almost pulled it off. It started as a normal morning at Addis Ababa Bole International Airport. An Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 767 was preparing for a scheduled flight heading northwest toward the Comoros Islands, then continuing on to the Ivory Coast. Passengers settled in, flight attendants ran through safety checks, and the crew went through their pre-flight routines like they had done hundreds of times before. Nobody on that plane knew that 3 men sitting in economy class had a completely different plan for where this flight was going to end up. The plane took off clean. No issues. No red flags. Just another routine morning departure over East Africa. But about 45 minutes into the flight, everything changed. 3 men stood up from their seats and stormed the cockpit. They were armed with a fire axe, a bottle of alcohol they claimed was a bomb, and enough desperation to do something catastrophic. They overpowered the crew, pushed into the cockpit, and took control of the aircraft. Now here's where it gets complicated, because these men were not terrorists in the way most people imagine. They weren't making a political statement. They weren't trying to crash the plane into a building. What they wanted was actually something almost impossible to process. They wanted to go to Australia. They believed that if they could force this plane to land on Australian soil, they could claim asylum and start a new life. That was the plan. Land in Australia. Disappear into a new country. The problem, and it was a massive, fatal problem, is that they had absolutely no understanding of aviation. They did not know how far Australia was. They did not know how much fuel was on the plane. They had no idea that what they were asking for was physically impossible. The captain tried to explain it to them. He told them straight, "This plane does not have enough fuel to reach Australia. We will run out of fuel over the ocean. People will die." The hijackers didn't believe him. They thought he was lying. They thought it was a trick to get them to give up. So they held their position. And the plane kept flying. 4 hours, a brutal standoff played out in that cockpit at 39,000 feet. The captain fought hard. He tried negotiating. He tried reasoning. He tried every angle he could think of to get these men to see sense. At one point he managed to divert toward the Comoros Islands, a small island nation in the Indian Ocean, hoping to land and end this before the fuel ran out. The hijackers caught on and forced him back on course. Meanwhile in the cabin, passengers had no idea how bad things truly were. Some were crying. Some were praying. Flight attendants tried to keep calm while privately knowing the situation was rapidly spiraling toward something nobody was going to walk away from cleanly. The fuel gauges kept dropping. The captain kept watching them. And then, the moment he had been dreading. The first engine flamed out. Then the second. Complete silence. A 767 with no engines. Gliding over open ocean. The captain had no choice now. No runway. No airport within reach. Just the Indian Ocean below and a plane that was now essentially a very heavy glider losing altitude fast. He made a decision that only the most skilled pilots could even attempt. He was going to ditch the aircraft on the water. Try to set it down on the surface of the ocean the same way you'd land on a runway. Controlled. Flat. Survivable. And incredibly, he almost did it. The plane came in low over the Comoros Islands near a beach called Galawa. It was a Saturday morning. Tourists were on that beach. Some of them had cameras. That footage exists. You can look it up. And it is one of the most haunting pieces of video ever captured. You can see the plane coming in low, wings level, looking almost controlled. For a split second it looks like he might actually pull it off. Then the right wing catches the water first. Everything that happens next takes less than 3 seconds. The wing digs in, the fuselage twists, the plane cartwheels violently across the surface of the ocean and breaks apart in shallow water, close enough to shore that people on the beach could swim to it. 261 people were on that plane. Only 50 survived. Now here is the part of this story that haunts investigators, survivors, and aviation experts to this day. A significant number of passengers who died did not die from the impact itself. They died because they inflated their life jackets inside the cabin before the water came in. It sounds like the right thing to do. It sounds like exactly what you're supposed to do in a water emergency. But when the fuselage broke apart and the ocean rushed in, those inflated life jackets pinned people against the ceiling. They couldn't dive down to get out. They couldn't fight the current. They were trapped by the very thing that was supposed to save them. If they had waited, if they had gotten out of the aircraft first and inflated outside, many of them would have survived. That detail alone changed how airlines around the world train passengers for water emergencies. The safety briefing instruction you hear on every single flight today, do not inflate your life jacket until you are outside the aircraft, that exists in part because of what happened on that beach in the Comoros. All 3 hijackers died in the crash. The captain survived. And the aviation world largely considered him a hero, a man who, with no fuel, no engines, and hijackers fighting him in the cockpit, still managed to get 50 people out alive. The consensus among investigators was that under those conditions, the survival of anyone at all was close to miraculous. The wreckage was recovered from shallow water. The investigation was completed. And the full story, the desperation, the miscalculation, the impossible final minutes, became one of the most studied cases in aviation history. 3 men who wanted a better life made a catastrophic decision based on a misunderstanding of basic geography. And 211 people paid for it. If this story hit different for you, drop it in the comments. What part got you the most? And if you want more stories like this, you already know what to do. Subscribe. Because we've got more coming.